Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Nimble Urban Survivor. My name is Nick Catelli, your host with the kind of most. I'll probably have to ask my mom if that's true or not. Today's date is February 1st. I know, guys, last week, I just want to apologize. Last week, we didn't have a show. I actually had to film a commercial last week, and that kind of took up my whole week with the fitting and everything. So I apologize, but we are back on the air right now. It is February, which is Black History Month, which is awesome. It's also Valentine's Day and President's Day. And if you didn't know, my birthday is on February 7th. Yeah, that's right. I'm actually sharing my birthday with the Super Bowl, which kind of sucks, because the Super Bowl, I guess, kind of overshadows my birthday. But we're going to have a really good birthday. But speaking of that, getting older, today's, submission comes in from someone named Barry, and Barry wrote, Nick, with COVID, I've had time to, think about going back to school and following my true career. I want to go back to college. And I thought that was great. And then, I actually replied back because I was like, oh, that's great. You're going to go back to college. And then Barry's like, yeah, I think a 45-year-old man can do that. And I guess I kind of brought up a good topic is how do you survive being a non-traditional student in college? If you know what a non-traditional student is, in reality, that's just some fancy Harvard term they came up with that just means you're really old to be in college. Because obviously when you go to college, your typical college kid is between the ages of 18 to, 22? And anything above that is considered non-traditional, which just means you're really old to be in a college setting. I don't know what the age limit is, though, because I knew some people in college that were like in their mid-20s and they lived on campus and in the dorm. So I don't know what the cutoff is to be considered a non-traditional. I would assume 30. Like, once you turn 30, you're considered like, I'm an old fuck. Like, I'm too old to be here at this university. But here's the thing is, like, I guess I never thought about this, really, is can you still live in the dorms? Is that a thing? Like, if I'm going to be 37 on Sunday, and if I want to go back to college and I was like, hey, I've got all this money, I want to go back to college and get another degree, and I want to live in the dorms, can I do that? Am I legally allowed to do that as a 37-year-old man, to have like an 18-year-old, like straight out of high school college roommate? Is that even possible? I don't think there's laws against that. I guess if you were, I guess you could live back in the dorms, right? I don't know, I guess. So if you research that, like, let me know, because that'd be very interesting to find out. But I totally understand that. You want to go back, you want to get a degree, you want to get a better job with more money, because that's why we go to college. I know people will be like, I'm going back to college so I can, like, learn some more stuff. No, you're going back to college so you can make some more money, because that's kind of the sad point about the United States of America is that, the higher your degree is or the fancier the name is on the paper, or if the paper is made out of gold, the more money you're probably going to make in society. So people will go back to school and do that. And I think that's great. But at some point, I think there has to be a cutoff, right? Because I just read in the news, I don't know if you read this, but a man in Italy just broke the record for being the oldest college graduate. And he was 98 years old. I hope he's still alive. But a few months ago, 98 years old, goes back to college, gets his degree, considered the oldest man ever to get his college degree. And the first thing I could think of, this is how bad I am, is I was just like, why the fuck would you do that? I was like, why would you? If I'm 98 years old, going back to college is like the last thing on my mind. Like term papers and classes and all of that crap. No. If I was like 98 years old, I'd probably just go get a bunch of credit cards and just blow all of them in Vegas or to Dave & Buster's and just drink nachos and I guess root beer floats or something and just, write it out. But this guy went back to college. I don't know why. I'd like to see how that job interview goes down. It's like, well, I finally got my college degree. I'm 98 years old. I guess the first thing I'd be like, well, do you have any experience? And in reality, in the time that you would get some of this experience, I hate to be rude, but are you even going to, technically still be around. That's so bad that I say that, but I just think that's interesting because you'll hear those news stories. I always see those news stories, and they're like, "This is Mark Jameson, and he's 115 years old, and he finally went back to high school and got his GED." And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, why would you do? What's the point? Like, once you get past like 90. Who gives a shit about going back to high school and getting a degree anymore? Even if you're one of those people like, well, I wanted to do it to just show people I can do it. I'm like, yeah, but I would focus on, different things. But, that's just me personally. I mean, congratulations to those people, by the way. And in no means am I insulting them. They're obviously non-traditional college students, okay? But that's today's topic is how do you survive being a non-traditional college student? Because you are, I mean, let's admit it, guys, you are a little bit of a fish out of water. If I'm a 37-year-old man and I'm back at college and I'm sitting in your class, obviously a lot of people are going to be looking at me. I consider myself to be very handsome. So, yes, a lot of the girls are going to be looking at me, but I'm married. And I would never cheat on my wife, but it would make it very difficult because now you've got all these 18-year-old boys who are going to hate me because their 19-year-old or 18-year-old sorority girlfriends are like, who is this handsome, slightly silver fox in my class? And I don't want that, right? But I can tell you from personal experiences when I was in college, because I went to one of the greatest colleges in the country, Southeast Missouri State University. Look it up. Amazing school, loved it. We had non-traditional students, and I really, in reality, it never bothered me. It would never bother me at all, like to see like an older, person like wanting to go back to school, and usually they were like people that were in their like early 30s, right? Or even I had a history class one time. And this guy was, I think, in his like late 40s, 50s, a student in the class. And we were taking like American history too, which is all the history pretty much. I think it's like World War II and, through present time. And I was kind of a dick. I didn't say this to the guy, but the whole time I'm like, dude, didn't you live like half of this? So why are you here? But I remember having like non-traditional students, and I remember like they were parents because I remember they would bring their kids in, and that never bothered me. I was never bothered by them, and I think that's kind of a dick thing. Like if you're a professor and you get bothered by like a kid being in the class that a non-traditional student brought, it's like, come on, man, have a. I mean, what do you not have a soul or a heart? Because usually half the time, I remember a lady was in one of my economics 101 class, and she brought her son in, and he just sat there and colored on a coloring book the whole time. It was great. He was very peaceful. He was very quiet, and that's great, And I think that shows a lot of strength of when you have like a mom trying to go back to school. I think that's great, right? But when it comes to being a non-traditional student, how do you survive it, right? And I think what I mean survive in the terms of it is I think a lot of people what stops them from wanting to go back to college is they feel awkward because they're now sitting in a class of 18 to 21-year-olds when they're probably in their like 30s or 40s, right? And I think that's usually the biggest hesitation. I think I read that online is the biggest hesitation for people not to go back and complete their degree is that they just don't want to seem like the old person in the class. And that's a shame. And in reality, I don't think students judge, because when you get to college, you know how it is. Like when you get to college, like nobody gives a shit anymore. I mean, you can wear a garbage bag to class. Nobody is really going to care. So the thing you need, obviously, is you got to have a good backstory. Right, that's the big thing. And I remember I knew a non-traditional college student who was a little bit older, and he was a little bit older because he was in the military. He was in the Navy for 4 years, and then when he got out of the Navy, he was probably like 23, I think 25, I forget. And then the Navy paid for him to go to college. And that's great. He served our country, and now he gets to go to college for free, which I think that's amazing. And I think anybody who serves in our military, Air Force, Navy, whatever, should get a free college education. I believe that to the heart. I don't understand why the fuck we're giving free college educations to college athletes. I don't agree with that. If anything, we should be giving, free college to our men and women that serve in our military and keep our country protected, instead of guys that just run a football into an end zone and do a little dance. So that's my personal opinion. If you don't like it, well, too bad. So what you have to do, and I've thought about this, is you just have to have a good backstory of why you are there. Okay, because I know that's the hesitation right now. There's probably a lot of people listening to my show, and they're like, Nick, I want to go back to college, but I don't want people to think that I'm like the old weird person. Well, you guys are in luck, because I mean, today's episode, I'm not going to have like steps on how to do it, but I think I've come up with a couple of scenarios that I think will work in the event that a professor or a student asks you while you're why you're in college again. Because I think most of the time I've read that professors will do that. They'll literally call you out and be like, "Why are you here?" And then you have to be like, "Well, I ran out of money, or I failed school, or I joined the circus and my show in Vegas got shut down, and so now I'm back here trying to get my degree in marketing," which is fine, right? But you got to have a good backstory. Like my friend who was in the military. That's a true, great story. He put his life on the line to protect the country, and now he's back in college. First rule, though, don't use that. That's the big thing. Don't lie and say that you were in the military. Don't do something like that, okay? Because I feel like that's going down a bad road. Obviously, also, too, I think you can get arrested if you pretend to be a military officer and never served in the military. So don't use that backstory. But I think I've come up with some really, really good backstories that you can use that will justify why you are there. Okay, the first good one is that you are a stay-at-home parent. And I know what you're thinking, because there's some people out there that probably don't have kids, or they weren't ever a stay-at-home parent, right? So at some point, the classes probably want to hear about the kid. So my advice to you, if you do I was a stay-at-home parent for a couple of years. I didn't go to college because I wanted to give my kids and raise them on my own instead of letting them be raised by a nanny, which is a very good, heartfelt story, But then people are going to be like, well, I want to see a picture of this kid. Tell me about your kid. So you are going to have to probably go out there and hire a ghostwriter to come up with a backstory about your child. And I would just do one kid. Do one kid. Don't do two kids, because if you do two kids, you're going to have to memorize all these things about two kids. But if you do one, you got to memorize one and done. That's it. I have one kid. It works out perfectly. I remember everything about him. I even named him after me, just so I would never forget his name. So you can hire a ghostwriter off Craigslist, and it can all, have them sign an NDA and write out. I would just go like a one-page story about your pretend fake kid. And then when it comes to like an image of the kid, I would just go on one of those websites where you can just like purchase a stock image and just purchase like a stock image of the kid. Because if anybody asks you like, well, do you have any pictures with your son? You can be like, oh no, I'm sorry. He's allergic to flashes. The flashes of light hurt his eyes, so we don't take a lot of pictures. Or you could just say it was like religious purposes. I know some people don't like to have their picture taken because they think that, the camera sucks out their soul and sends it to hell. So that's another really, good thing too. So I would say that's option number one, is that you were a stay-at-home parent for 15 years so you could help see your son off to high school. And now it's time to, focus on yourself. Ghostwriter, NDA, good backstory. I feel like that's a really easy one. That's a really sympathetic, empathetic one. That's a real go-to right there. Okay. The second one, this option is kind of like, let's say you just don't want to be bothered. You could just easily say that like someone came to you in the night and told you to go back to college. Okay. That's kind of the religious kind of ghost story as kind of like, I guess I'm taking a page out of the Christmas Carol with Scrooge. One of the ghosts like came into Scrooge and was like, hey, we found out that you never actually had a degree in finance. Maybe you should go get that degree, and then we can continue with Christmas Day. So kind of the same way. And the reason you would say that is if you don't want to be bothered, because I understand that there are some non-traditional college students who just want to go to class, learn, and go home. They don't want to have to like socialize with the kids or the teacher or anything. They don't want to be bothered, right? So the way you don't get bothered is you just say, if anybody asks you why you're back in college, is that a voice came to you in the middle of the night and told you to go back to school. I would say kind of like that Field of Dreams thing with Kevin Costner, when it was like, if you build it, they will come. So maybe it's kind of the same thing for you. It's like, if you go back to college, you will get a degree in whatever you choose to major in. So you could do something like that. And the good thing about that one is that people won't bother you, right? I think that's a really good one. Nobody will bother you because you kind of give off that strange vibe. And like, this guy's kind of, I get it. I don't know if I want to be near him. I'm not going to ask any questions. Just let him learn. That's a good option, too. I call that option the don't bother me option. Now, let's move on to option 3. Because if you're kind of a diva and an attention whore, which you might be, you might want the kids to all focus on you. So for this option, you're probably going to want to go down the route of failed Wall Street CEO. And I just came up with this the other day because of this whole thing going on with the Reddit investors and GameStop, is that you're going back to college because you're a failed CEO. You're like one of those people who, like, you graduated high school and you skipped over college and you were just like a wolf of Wall Street and you just like were working in investments and international business, and then, it all came crashing down, and now you're going back to school to try and like start over again. So I guess option 3 would be the CEO start over. But let's talk about that because, if you say you were the CEO of a company, obviously a lot of people are going to be asking a lot of questions. They're going to be like, well, what company were you the CEO of? Were you the CEO of like a product? Was it like an internet site? What was it? Obviously, you can't pick a product. Like you can't be like, I was the CEO of picture frames in the 80s. You can't do that because now we got this thing called the internet and they can Google you, right? So when it comes to a backstory of being a CEO, number one, you got to go with international business. Okay, do something that was outside of the United States of America. And then just have it be like finance or just like trade negotiations. Keep it very generic and very bland. You got to think of yourself like when you're doing option 3 of the failed CEO back in college thing, you have to think of yourself as like one of those politicians who just comes up with like broad generic statements. Like if someone's kind of, you like come in the room, you're like, I think for America, we're going to make taxes a livable thing. Like that makes no sense, right? Or like for our immigration plan, we're going to make sure that all of the immigrants are immigrated. Like, like stuff like that makes no sense. So if people are like, wow, what were you the CEO of? Then your answer can be like, I was the CEO of an international business trade dealing with oil refineries all over land. And then if it's like, well, man, tell us more about that, then you can come in with this, and this is going to be really great. You'll be like, I can't legally tell you anything because I'm still being watched by the FBI. So that's kind of a fun one. Option 3 is. That's the one if like you want to get attention and a little bit of respect, right? Because the thing I think sometimes non-traditional students kind of run into is that kids will think that you're like dumb and you're going back to school. You're like, oh, there's old Nicotelli, the idiot 37-year-old dad trying to pass economics 101, which isn't true. Like I consider myself to be a very smart man. I've read that in a fortune cookie once, so it should be true. But, if I tell everybody that I'm a multi-millionaire that lost everything in international trade, like, you get a lot of respect there. And if you throw that little FBI tidbit on top of it, I'm not going to lie, those kids will respect you. Also, if you really want to add on to it with this option 3 thing, you could also go out and hire an actor to wear like a black suit and a black tie and some sunglasses and like from time to time when you're in class, like stare at you and make the other kids think that the FBI is actually watching you. And that's going to be kind of like a fun, because then, now you're not just like you're like a fun, mysterious, non-traditional student. And all the kids are going to be like, wow, I kind of want to be this guy, but I kind of don't want to be this guy. So, That's a good option too. Again, the failed CEO of bland generic business being followed by the FBI. So that's kind of an exciting one, right? So now option 4 is this is the more kind of like emotional one, because I know there are some people out there that like get off on getting empathy from people. I really blame like social media for really just like lighting that fire. You know what I'm talking about? Like people who get on social media and they like fish for empathy. They're like, oh my God, I had the worst day ever at the Dairy Queen. And then you know what'll happen is like people will be like, oh my God, what happened? Oh my God, I hope you're doing great. Oh man, keep it up. You're the best. I love you, which is kind of, really I think that's really sad, like when you're fishing for empathy. But I guess, like on the show, like I'm not going to judge. So we kind of came up with a empathy fishing, I guess, technique, right? And I think this one would be more of like a skills thing that doesn't transfer over to the United States of America. So I'll give you an example. It's kind of like think of like Russia, right? Like Russia's a good country, and think of like a guy who's like a doctor in Russia and he's a surgeon and he's probably like one of the best surgeons ever in all of Russia, like, heart transfers and, being able to like save people's brains and, he attached like someone's arm to their other arm. He's a really, really good surgeon. He's probably been in lots of news publications, things like that. But us being in the American bubble, we don't even know this guy like exists. So then one day this guy decides that he's going to leave Russia and come to the United States of America to be a world-renowned surgeon in America and bring his gift of skills to us. But here's the thing. His certificate or his education doesn't transfer over to the United States of America. So he goes from being like top brain surgeon of all Russia to now he has to be like an intern or a nurse at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. And that really happens in real life. That happens like all the time is you'll have these well-educated foreign dignitaries or whatever who are like experts in their country who could probably do some real good here in America, but the American system is like, ain't gonna happen because you don't have a college degree here. You need to go back to school. I don't give a shit if you helped saved Chernobyl and stopped all those people from dying. You need to go back to college, young man, because this is the United States of America, where we don't respect what you've done. We respect a name on a shitty piece of paper. And that happens. That happens all the time. You'll have like someone who's like a renowned scientist in Germany, and the only job he could get in the United States of America was like driving a cab because his education, I guess, isn't like respected here in the United States of America. So that is a route you can go down, which is option 4. Is my skills didn't transform, I guess, was it transformers? I don't know. It didn't transfer. I guess transfer is the word to the United States of America. Okay. Now, here's a couple of things with that. If you do that, you have to pretend that you're like a foreign, non-traditional student. Okay. And you're going to have to come up with some sort of accent. Okay. Number one, you can do your American accent and just say that you watched a lot of like Desperate Housewives and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and you just develop this natural American accent. You can do that. Okay. But then you're going to have to become like, you have to watch those shows. And I'm not going to lie, that you might have a heart attack watching those shows. They're awful. Okay. So you're probably going to have to come up with an accent of some sort. I would go easy on the accents. Okay, and think about what you can do. If you don't know how to do an accent, you can always go out there and hire a dialect coach. You can find one on the internet. There's tons of them. You can do it all through Zoom now. If I was you, I feel like the easiest accent for a lot of people to do here in America is a British accent. I find the British accent is very easy. And I don't know why, but doing a British accent, I could do a British accent a little bit like this, here in the college. How you doing? Hey, how you doing there? Yes, love to be here. Love to learn something. Yeah, I actually can do a lot of different variations of British accents because I'm fucking talented. Um, but I feel British accents are usually the easiest to do because, obviously Americans were descendants of the British, right? Or you could do a Canadian accent because that's just kind of adding a lot of like sorries. Oh, hey, I'm here in the class. It's good to be here in the class. Sorry about that. So I would pick like an accent that has like an English language to it. Don't try and be like German because people are going to be like, well, do you speak German? And you're like, no. Because then you'd be like, hello, I can't do the German. It was like, Guten Schmagen schon, Devi. I'm here to take your class with you. I don't know if that's German or not, but you know what I mean. So with this option, you got to pick an easy accent. I would go British. I feel like it's the easiest way. And you're going to have to come up with a really good backstory for that one. All right. And, it has to do something with your major. So, like, if you were majoring in marketing, you might want to say that maybe you were like the top marketing person in all of Brussels or something like that. I don't know. You're just going to have to go online and find like a job. Usually I feel like it's a lot of doctors and scientists. That's the big thing is like I was a doctor in Brussels. I was the top heart surgeon ever. And I even worked for MI6. And then I came to America and I'm only qualified to work at McDonald's, which is really sad, but that really happens. So remember with option 4, I mean, you got to be all in on that with the accent, the backstory. And here's the thing. I mean, you're going to have that accent all throughout your 4 years of going back to college. Like, you can't give that up. Okay, I guess at some point what you could try and do is you could try and just like, weave your way out of the accent and just say that you've become like Americanized. I always tell people that too, because, like I'm Italian or Sicilian. And then people are like, well, where's your Italian accent? I'm like, well, I've been so Americanized over the years that I don't have it, even though I was born in America. But, that's beside the point. So you got to be really, really dedicated to that one. And that one gets you a lot of attention. That gets you a lot of empathy, a little dramatic. The other students, they kind of feel bad for you. I think that's the good thing is because all the students feel bad for you. Like, I can't believe it. Like, you were a heart surgeon and now all you can do is flip burgers at Taco Bell? That's terrible. So if you like getting that empathy, I feel like option 4 is a great option for you. So, your skills didn't transfer over to America. And, here's the thing, though. I will give you one warning, is don't play it up that much. Because people are going to give you empathy, right? Like, they're going to be like, oh, my God, I feel so sorry for you. Like, you have to go back to school again to learn how to be a rocket scientist and help the Soviets get back on the moon. I can't believe you have to go, here to Southeast Missouri State University. Don't play it up. Because I know a lot of you who are empathy whores are really going to play that up. And what's going to happen is you're going to start a revolution. Okay, and what's going to happen is you're going to start riots. You're going to start protesting. You're going to start people invading the Capitol again because they're going to start this whole movement of like, let people's education transfer over to the United States or we're going to like burn down the Capitol or something like that. So, I know you guys like that empathy for option 4, but remember, take a little bit of the empathy, but just tell people it's not a big deal and you're happy to be there. Because remember, if you get all in on that empathy, we're looking at probably another big protest thing and that's not going to be good for anybody because then you're really going to either have to be like all in, but then once Fox News and CNN and all them like get their claws into you and find out that you're just a white guy doing like a shitty British accent and lying the whole time, I mean, I'm not going to lie. That's not going to be good for anybody. You're going to look really, really, really bad. But the good thing about that is when you do look bad like that, I guarantee in like 10 years, Martin Scorsese is going to make a movie about you. Just kind of like Wolf of Wall Street. That's a great movie. I mean, it's a bad story. Like, he ripped off all those people, but what an amazing movie. So I guess I just thought about that just now. I guess, with option 4, you could make a movie out of that if you really fuck that up. So, not a bad thing. I guess write a book about the experience, and then they'll make the movie about it. You can make $1 million off that. You just make a book about like, ooh, I fooled everyone, I'm still thinking about writing a book about that. When I worked at the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago for so many years, when I was doing comedy, I was an actor and a writer and all that stuff. I was not a finance guy, but for some reason they hired me and put me in charge of like $1 billion accounts. To this day, I still don't know why the fuck they ever hired me, but I should write a book about that because I definitely fooled everybody into thinking I was a collateral banker dude. But that's a tale for another day. Maybe that'll be an episode, how to survive pretending you're a banker. I'll give you the big thing. If you ever want to survive anything, just Google it. Just Google it. If you don't know how to do the job, just Google it. I guarantee there's like a million YouTube videos out there. Like that's literally how I did my job at the Chicago Home Loan Bank. I just Googled everything. Like I had no clue what I was doing on day one when they hired me. I was like, well, I hope I last like a week doing this job. And then I just Googled it, figured it out, and then I worked there for like 7 years because I'm a very talented actor. Well, guys, that is our time. Obviously, we're at 30 minutes. But here's the thing. Obviously, you can use any four of those options, right? You can be the stay-at-home parent, the failed CEO, the what. You can do any of those things, right? But here's the point. Is at the end of the day, it's all about you, right? If you want to go back to college, do it. If you want to go learn something, it really doesn't matter how old you are. Just do it. Don't worry about what other people think of you. Because you got to remember, your education is about you. It's not about them. And in reality, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Those kids, those 18-year-olds, 19, 20, they don't care that you're in school. If anything, they admire you because you went back, you finished, you didn't quit. And I think that's a great example to show the next generation of students that are coming up in this country that will one day take over and lead this country is to not give up and to not quit and to remember that life, age is just a number. You can pick up and go back to school whenever you want. I mean, if you look at a lot of historical people, I don't know why I'm using Kentucky Fried Chicken. The Colonel didn't start Kentucky Fried Chicken, I think, when he was like well into his 70s. Ray Kroc pretty much took over and stole McDonald's and turned into like the $1 trillion thing it was when he was like in his 50s. So age is just a number. It is not a way of life. Because here's the thing I always tell everybody is that you get one shot at life. Don't play it safe. Because we don't know what happens at the end of life. We don't know where we go. We don't know what happens. We don't know if we get reincarnated. We don't know if maybe we get hooked out of a simulation and we find out that we're just batteries like in the Matrix. We don't know. So since we don't know, what the fuck does it matter if you go all in on what you want to do in life? Because I'm going to tell you guys something. I've met so many people who I know are so talented, and I know they could just go out there and make great things happen, but they don't do it. They play it safe. They don't go back to school. They just take a shitty job sitting at a desk, and then they wake up one morning, they're 98 years old, and they think, what have I done for myself? Because that's the problem with life today in society is we've built this weird, fucked up thought process that I go to school, I get a job, and I just work that same job and literally just survive off the job. That's it. The job is just a means of so I can eat, shit, shower, go back to the job, and then maybe go take a vacation in Branson, Missouri at some point. That's a terrible life. That's a prison life. So go out there. Do what you want to do because you get one shot. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm scared that I'm going to fail. Here's the thing. Don't think about the failure because that doesn't matter. Because what would you rather do? Wake up one morning, be 105 years old and be like, man, I wish I would have done this. Or wake up one morning and just be like, I went after it and I did it. Like me, like I'm an actor in LA. I'm no big name. Probably a lot of you don't even know who the fuck I am. But I have no regrets. I don't, if I fail, I fail, but I can still say, you know what? I gave it my all and I didn't waste my life because I used it going after the thing that I wanted. Did I get it? Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. It doesn't matter because I used my life to go after what I wanted, and that's what made me happy. Because really, in reality, that's kind of what makes us happy is the journey to get to where we want to go. The journey. It's kind of like my analogy for that is when you think about Christmas, you know what's fun about Christmas is the day after Thanksgiving, and then we get into December, and you have all of those days that lead up to Christmas. That's the real fun of Christmas is the journey getting to Christmas Day. And then you get to Christmas Day, and it's exciting. It's not that fun, though. The journey to get there is even funner. And that's what life is all about, is the journey. If you fail, you fail. But you still went after it. And people will admire you for that. Because a lot of people are scared to death because of failure. They don't want to fail. So if I don't go after what I want, I'll never fail at it. Right? Which is kind of a messed up way of thinking. So at the end of the day, guys, do what you want to do. Be you. Go after that dream. You get one shot. You might as well just go all in. Right? Because it's not going to hurt anything. You're going to feel good about yourself. Even if you don't make it to where you want to go, at least you can be like, I tried. And that, I think, is just as good as winning. I think. So, guys, that's our time again. Thank you so much for listening to the Nimble Urban Survivor. Again, I'm your host, Nick Catelli. If you ever have anything you want to talk about on the show, or if you'd like to be a guest on my show, feel free to reach out to me via my website at www.catellicomedy.com. Guys, I know you have a lot of amazing podcasts out there you could be listening to, so I really appreciate that you took the time to listen to mine. Remember to like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. Let me know if you are going after something. Let me know. I would love to bring you on the show to hear about your new journey that you're starting, in your life. Let me know. So, guys, have a great week. And remember, survive out there. And be you.